we moseyed on over toward the queen. Along the way, we found a fucking alicorn rabbit. I can't remember the name of it. A rabbit with a horn. Um, Paige was very
Almirage.
fast. Almirage. Paige was very fascinated by this and attempted to feed it a snacky. And I believe bonded with it a little bit. Then we got to the Fae court, and Angharad said some extremely not suspicious things to the Fae Queen, and the party was totally chill about it. And Willow made a new friend. We then started trying to bargain with the Fae Queen for her help in this matter. Angharad offered 5 years of her time in the Fae court. Fae Queen said, "What about 10?" Angharad was like, "Bet." And then Madigan was like, "No, not bet. Don't bet. No.
Stop betting.
Stop betting. We should take a day to think about this." And the queen was like, "Okay, I guess you can stay here for the night, whatever." And Angharad was like, "Hey, Maddie, you want to see my room?" And Maddie was like, "Okay, I guess." And that's about it.
That's the least you could do.
So, want to
Glossing
see my
over a
room?
lot
Okay,
there.
I guess.
There's a lot of talking in literal riddle and literal rhyme. Like Joe and Kira were spitting bars. Like literally.
Joe did an excellent job of that. I did a less good job of that, but
You
there were
did
bars
wonderfully.
involved.
There was many bar spitting,
Mhm.
and I think more importantly, the queen recognized Angharad.
Yes.
That was a big one.
Yeah, it's her kid. Fucking. Did you not mention that in the recap?
I mentioned all of the important things.
Yeah.
Angharad is the daughter of the queen that has been gone for many, many years because of a beloved.
Yep.
And also the hunter's weapons have been confiscated and tucked away
Yep.
by Wood Dude.
Whistler.
Whistler.
See, I just want to say Pinocchio.
Oh my god. I also want to make a point to say, Amy, I re-listened to the recording, and I said a dumb thing because I was looking at the token and it was really kind of smudgy when I was describing Whistler. He is not actually pink. He has like whitish, leafy kind of hair and fronds on his branches. It is not pink. It is just like the tint of the token to me was red at the time, and I was like, why does he look so pink? That's on me.
Okay.
Just in case you noted down, he looks pink.
I don't remember if I did.
Perfect.
Okay. I was like, why are you telling me in particular?
Forget I said anything.
Okay.
Everything's fine.
Okay. I call in the notes he's known as Branchman.
That's
because
perfect.
I didn't get his
Brannon.
name until much later.
Yeah, good old Branchy. So you guys are ushered into the depths of the Fae realm. And it's worth noting that as you enter here, there isn't there is a very, very thin sense, like, wisp of wind that kind of washes over you as you enter this new land. And it's you enter through the base of this impossible tree trunk that I believe last time you guys were all looking at it like you should be able to see this tree for miles if this tree trunk is to actually a real thing. But you don't there is no such trunk that you or there is no such gigantic tree that you can see from your city. But as you walk into the tree trunk, you are greeted with this expansive room that kind of opens up into a big atrium. Imagine you are standing at the base of a tower hotel, and you can look up and see the bending and curving of this gigantic tree trunk with creatures and things flying around and crawling on the walls, and it goes up and up and up and up, and it is a very like big open space. And along the inside, what would be like the inner trunk area, there are little divots where you imagine branches would be, and these branches like are also carved out so that people and other creatures can live in this area. It is like it's like a very broad mall hotel kind of structure, and there is a lot of activity in here, especially because you are coming in following on the heels of the queen, who, as she walks in, like just radiates attention. In like people know her and people see her moving, and like there's just deference given to her. But there's also a lot of people gawking. I keep saying people. Also, a lot of creatures gawking. And just looking around, those of you who haven't actually seen so many different fae before, and the hunters, you've seen several types of fae. Never this many at once, but some of these creatures look familiar. There are fawns and there are satyrs who just will frolic around, and some of whom can be seen sharing secrets. Others look more shady and unscrupulous, and some look like almost like a typical minstrels from old fairy tale books you may have read. And there are other creatures that maybe some of you haven't seen. There are pixies, there are fairies, there are other types of like bipedal animals or uplifted animals. You see a one thing in particular sticks out as you see like a flying, like a school almost of fairies, all of them in this kind of just array of different colors. You have reds and rubies and turquoises, and all of them just zipping by, and they're talking to each other, and they're looking at you all as you walk in. If ever, I'm curious to see here. Let me pull up the sheet so I can have a skill list in front of me. So, if any of you would like to roll, let's see, you can do a lore check for nature or any sort of occultism check.
Esoteric lore?
Esoteric lore would work.
Don't mind if I do.
So you said
Occultism, you say?
nature, occultism, you say?
Yes,
Or
nature,
Arcana?
occultism, arcana would work. Esoteric lore would work.
I've got lore fae on my sheet.
That would work. That counts.
Trained.
Damn it! Damn it, Amy!
Hey. Wow. Amy
Off to
really
a strong start,
predicted,
Amy.
really predicted the unluck.
Why did you speak it into existence?
What? Kira, why are you yelling? You got a fucking 23.
Because your die knocked over my die.
Into an 18. Be grateful.
No, it was an 18 and you knocked it into a 4.
No, you got an 18.
Be grateful.
Look,
The visual was a 4 after you knocked into it.
bitch.
So
Imagine if
fucking
that's how
grateful.
it worked in D&D.
You got an 18.
Everybody roll
So-
checks, see if we can knock this one into something better so we don't die.
Just spam.
What is that? What is that game? Not crap. The sliding disc game where like you slide and then you can knock people's
Shuffleboard?
I know what you're fucking.
Shuffleboard, yeah.
shuffleboard. Yeah,
Yeah.
shuffleboard rules for D&D.
So, with I will do the occultism and arcana, nature, and fae before I do the esoteric lore. But Aang, with a 23, you're looking around. There are fae here that you have seen, and there are some fae here that you haven't seen before. But it's fae that you haven't seen in the sense that you haven't met them, rather than you've never seen one of these before. You have been inside of this tree. You used to have you have a room here. I was going to say you used to, but you still do. And inside, it's just there's just familiarity in the creatures that are flitting about. You definitely note that there are a few faces who you recognize. You recognize a particularly shady looking, but ultimately kind of charming and snarky satyr who dresses in dark browns. He particularly has a penchant for wearing what amounts to a hide long coat made of some type of rough skin with like curly chestnut hair. There's also in that group of fairies who are flying by, who are all various rhinestone and gemstone colors. You note of one of the fairies that's somewhere in there. You can point out or pinpoint just by sight a fairy that is dressed in like a tealish tourmaline colored outfit with like bright hair. And you've seen her and her family before. They are from far away, but they often stay here. And lastly, there's another one you see from far, far away in the corner, tucked in a very, very dark spot where it is not uncommon. They are not infinitely social creatures. And this one in particular, to always sit in her favorite chair, just twiddling her needles, enjoying her time. A short, kind of petite looking creature with little antlers. You imagine she would be very anxious. You've never talked to her, but you've had casual, like, friendly nods as you've passed by each other. This small, like, palish looking figure with delicate whitish hair. And it is strange because as you are here and recognize all of these faces, none of these faces have changed. The time has passed and they look the same as they always did. For Paige, you're looking around and the magic here is kind of like prickling in the back of your mind. You feel the air thrum here. It is alive. Like a lot of the creatures here, like these fey creatures, they aren't casting magic, but them being here just seems to radiate magic, kind of like if you happen to have one conductive piece of metal too close to another conductive piece of metal and a live spark, and they will just dance around. This energy starts to just play around here, and it almost feels like familiar in a very bizarre way. It feels similar, not similar. It feels familiar in the same way that when you reach out to the magic that you can use, it has that sort of sensation to it. This sort of like alive quality, capricious magic almost. And Willow, you look around and you're just almost overwhelmed by the sheer number of creatures that you have read about in stories and heard about from hunters, and some of which you've neither heard nor seen, nor heard, and neither heard about nor seen before, and just like you are, you wish you could interview them all and talk their ear off about all of the different interesting things that they may have in common, but also the things that are very, very different about them, let alone that some of them have dragonfly wings and some of them have butterfly wings, or their sheer disparity in sizes. As you can see, some creatures look like probably barely over a foot tall, some of them well over 6 to 7 feet tall. There are just there's too many, and this greatly excites your the Summer inside, where she is just like giddy at all of this enjoyment, like all of this liveliness. Madigan, the first thing you notice is that it smells so confusing. You've smelt Fae before. You have tracked them. You have worked alongside some Fae weirdlings, and there is something distinctive about weirdlings and Fae weirdlings in particular, and that is when you are working around them, there is always something about their scent that is distinctly human. But in this place, you are smelling, and you're just going about trying to kind of gather your senses, and it is like every time you turn your head, you are getting hit by another combination of scents that just wash over you and almost overwhelm your nose at this. But it is just baffling how many different ways these can combine and not smell even the tiniest bit human. The only humans that you can smell very, very clearly are the three women who are standing close to you. And last but not least, Electra, you have read many, many books on Fae, and you, in your time, you have encountered fairies, you have encountered pygmies, you have encountered pixies. Many of these little creatures, the smaller Fae, they aren't harmful. They can be, but typically they are curious creatures. And you know very, very well that because you had brought the offering, you had all brought flowers, and Anghar had brought the sheep. Um, you are in a position that is you are coming to the Fae Queen in a position of quote unquote good faith. And when you come in a position of good faith and you talk to or barter or bargain with a Fae of any kind, you know that the Fae is going to commune with you and be very cooperative. They're not going to try and pull one over on you because you have given them cause to stop and kind of reconsider and work with you. Being on good, like dealing on good faith is the difference between uh, dealing with a Fae who's going to try to legal ease their way out of something, and a Fae who's like going to go with the spirit of the deal rather than to the letter to take advantage of you. So it may seem unusual. There's probably not a lot of hunters who have been in this position. This is a very unique position for you, but you are safe despite being in incredibly unfamiliar waters, and your training just kind of heightens you in your awareness. Like you are very vigilant right now and just hyper aware, but there's no active threat. from all of what you know and understand about Fae. And as you walk, all of you, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes of walking as you walk across this broad area and you look around at this beautiful site where there's flowers and plants that you've not seen, or some that you have seen but in sizes or shapes that don't look familiar. You walk around a long winding staircase that goes around the circumference of the trunk, on the inside of the trunk, obviously. And you go up until you get to a like off-shooting branch, and down this branch, the queen leads you to a particularly cozy nook. And this particular nook, Angharad, is familiar to you, as this is not your room, but it is a guest area. This is where they would put an envoy or an ambassador or whomever. It is a nice, like warmly lit, like almost hobbit-like kind of cozy, naturey area. And you walk in, and there's no windows, but there is a dim light, as almost like bioluminescent plants rather than torches. And these glowing plants seem to just they dim almost to set the mood of like it's evening time, it's time to unwind. And you walk in, and there's beds for everyone. And the queen beckons in here, and as she does, you see behind you that there are a few Fae who none of you had noticed before, but Whistler seems to be standing at the head of a troop of 4 different Fae. You see 2 satyrs carrying the edge of what appears to be just some kind of blanket or tarp or cloth of some kind. And behind the 2 satyrs carrying the other ends of the cloth, there are 2 pixies. And pixies, for the record, are pixies and fairies and pygmies, all of these types of small fae. It's difficult to tell them apart. You can usually tell them apart by the type of wing that they have. Pixies have dragonfly wings. And these pixies, who are, each of them are carrying, or each of the fae behind Whistler, they're holding one corner of a cloth, almost like pallbearers. And in the center of the cloth are all of the gear and weapons and iron that was carried with all of you. And it's not dragging. They're keeping it upright. They are just carrying it by virtue of carrying the cloth so that they don't touch it. And so that it does not touch the wood of the tree. But as they arrive to the room, Whistler, still hunched over, with his hands clasped behind his back, he takes a few steps forward and then turns to face you all and beckons into the room, because he is supposed to be the sort of chauffeur, envoy kind of person. But he beckons you all into the room and says, "Your rooms, madams." What do you all do?
And Herod will thank him kindly for his time, and just kind of stand by while everybody else heads into their rooms. She won't head to hers immediately.
Yeah, thanks. Daddy
So
is not leaving Young Herod.
Hmm.
hmm,
to one of the rooms and just kind of take a look around for a second, very kind of politely once over.
Hmm. So is it like a hallway with like a bunch of different doors?
It's like a communal single bedroom with beds and little footlockers.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is like perfectly suited to house 4 to 6 people. There are exactly 4 beds because Anghared, this is not her room.
What about Pierre?
Oh, I forgot about Pierre.
There are
There
5
have to
beds.
be there are 5 beds. Excuse me.
I was about to say, like, wait a second. What the fuck did they do with him?
The Fae have already
5
kidnapped the boy.
5
Mhm.
beds. 5 is fine.
I mean, he already took the other boys. What's to stop him?
This is our
Fucking
last boy
pesky.
left, man. Last boy standing. But Paige will a very not like carelessly, but like happily like trot forward with a smile and a nod towards Whistler and the Fae behind him. And she will essentially pick a bed. The first one she sees. And she just like steps near it and stands next to it as if like, okay, this one's fine. But
Yeah,
she's very excited. And like she's checking out all the decorations in the room because she's like, they've got to have some fucking killer embroidery on these sheets. Like, there's no fucking way they don't. Space shit.
you walk in and like immediately plop down on the bed, and it is. Hold on, let me check really quick here. I want this one. roll me a will save.
What?
Don't worry,
Why?
just do it.
But she's just standing near it.
Oh, I thought you're not plopping onto the bed. Okay.
I mean, she's gonna check
Don't
out
use
the
the
sheet,
beds,
so if by
everybody.
touch.
Nobody get on the beds.
So is it by touch or by sitting down? Because she is
by-
checking out the sheets and the
It is by
pillowcases.
plopping down on the bed. Like if you were testing the bed by jumping down or jumping and sitting down on it, like kind of throwing yourself onto the bed, like when you relax.
Mm-hmm.
If I thought you were doing that.
Oh no, that'd be rude. Just immediately just jump on the bed. Like, yeah, this is where you'll be staying, just fucking cannonball. It's like, no.
It's
But she is
fine.
but she is gonna check out the sheets and the pretty blankets and
That would
shit.
that would be the Maddie reaction if Maddie was not predisposed towards fucking worrying about Ankara right now.
You have no proof of this.
But I'm also not wrong.
Pierre
It's like
is
75% right.
Pierre is like glued to your side. By the way, Paige. He follows
Peach.
very Peach. He follows really, really closely beside because he does not want you to get far away from him in this very unusual place. He's a little anxious, but
Huh.
he'll follow close to you.
Too many pretty girls.
Too many pretty everything.
Pierre's
Yes.
having a bit of awoken sexuality right now.
Oh no, am I gay? No, you're Faye.
Is he gay or is he just European?
Gotta do it now.
But if, as the rest of you just kind of meander about, Whistler will snap 2 wooden fingers, and it doesn't make like a normal snap. It makes like a wood clicking noise, like almost like wood reeds clicking against each other. but he snaps his fingers, and the two satyrs will carry the the two satyrs and the two pixies will carry the tarp or carry the little cloth in, and they will set it down in basically the floor, the middle space of the room, and just very carefully take a step or two away from it and walk around it and walk back out of the room so that they don't touch it. And they walk out, and then you are left there with the queen and Whistler, and the queen will like basically she turns and dismisses the few who are following Whistler. And now it's just the queen, Whistler, and you all. And she looks at you and says, I take you find the accommodations acceptable.
Quite lovely, thank you. Just for our safety and sanity of everybody involved, would you. Is there anything that we should know? Not to do, not to go, not to touch?
She. Hmm. She kind of tilts her head a little bit. It's you've kind of surprised her because she wasn't expecting like a wasn't expecting that kind of question. But she tilts her head and says, "Mind where you wander, if you carry your iron. 'Tis all. Most should find themselves pleasantly guided by the magics here."
Would it be better if we just left our weapons here then?
She tilts her head for a second and just kind of taps one finger on her chin and says, "Would be respectable. After all, you've come here in good faith. It need not, one would need not be afeard of us Fae. You are guests here. Make yourself comfortable."
Then we're free to take in the beauty of your. What are we calling this? A palace?
She she doesn't like audibly laugh, but she kind of puts her mouth over or her hand over her mouth and just like you can see her silently chuckle, and she just goes, "You may call it such. A lovely palace at that. Natural. You are free to wander."
Paige is visibly getting excited.
Willow just nods. Thank you then.
Whistler will step forward, and he steps forward in like a bit of a stooped bow and says, "If it pleases the ladies, there is food in the dining hall. Free to partake."
Willow just kind of tilts her head at that, looks over to the very excited and Pierre, or very excited Paige and the very nervous Pierre. Looks and sees Maddie, I'm assuming, still like 6 inches from Angerad at most.
Yep,
Looks at
5 feet.
looks at Electra. Shrugs. Well, I think some of us can manage to make our way there.
Yes.
He bows a little bit in like a, of course, gesture. And he looks up to the queen and bows to her lower than he did before and says, "My lady, if I am free, I will take my leave." And she looks down at him, and for the first time, she doesn't really smile. The smile on her face kind of slowly fades into a sort of placid look, and she looks at Whistler and says, "You are not dismissed. We have guests, and you will tend to their every need till their stay is done. Be their servant as you are mine, faithful." And she, like, as she speaks, she puts her hands behind her back and kind of like, in the same way that you cross your arms in front, she crosses her arms behind her. And Whistler unflinchingly nods once, says, "I understand, my lady. I will watch them and tend to their needs." And he takes a few steps backwards and just kind of finds a place to stand near the wall where he's not in the way if somebody walks by him. And the queen turns to you all and says, "I would bid you all a fond good evening, for I am very weary. But I would like very much," and she turns to you, Angharad, "to have a conversation with my long-missed daughter."
And Herod kind of half curtsies, the one you do when you're acknowledged. Good
You know,
Gladden.
we have traveled a long way.
Maddie.
Madigan, let her speak with her daughter. Do not be an idiot.
I'm just saying, we've been traveling for a long time. I mean, a
Okay,
little bit of
let her
rest
speak with
is.
her daughter, Madigan.
The queen turns to you, Maddie, and she is quite big. She is a very tall woman, though her proportions are still delicate. She is a tall person, and she kind of bends down to be closer to eye level with you, and she will give you a very, very earnestly pleading like look, and she'll bring her hands out and clasp them in front of you and say, "Worry not, good foxkin. I will not keep her. Not for long. Not yet. You will have your Angharet back quite soon. I promise you. You have my word."
She, so like she's kind of in a situation where she's forced to look ahead, right?
Yes.
Yeah. She looks at the queen and is frowning a little bit and just kind of like glances her eye, like tries to turn her eyes, not her head, but like to look to Ingrid, but can't really get her inside, I'm assuming.
Mm, sorry, repeat. Get her in sight?
Like she can't see Ingrid without turning her head, essentially.
Yeah, A little, yeah. You could kind of lean and do it, and just get like the sliver of Angharad as like the queen is taking up most of your front,
Yeah,
like
it's like
like standing right in
she.
front of you.
It's like she's facing forward, but she's kind of like trying to move her eyes a bit to look like this corner of her eyes look.
Mm-hmm.
It's like fine. It's been a long day. Okay, thanks.
She.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, just she's like not sure what to say, but she kind of like she kind of bites her tongue a little bit. Like she wants to say more, but she said just it's been a long day, so we should rest at some point.
The queen, like, despite your protest, with your permission, she gets almost like a sort of giddy excitement. She claps her hands and then nods in a very, very bizarre, like, bow of thanks and deference to you. And she stands up and bends down and kisses you on top of the head, like right between your ears.
Stay still. Stay still.
Don't,
Stay still.
don't fuck this up for us, Maddie. Don't fuck this up.
Hold.
She's frozen. It's like, what the fuck? I was not expecting this. What the hell is going on here? This is not normal.
Nani?
That's what's going on in her head.
Maddie, you make me a will save.
Oh, fuck. I was waiting for it.
I like that before we got here, Electra is protesting because the noobs, but the noobs are the least likely to get us in trouble right now.
Yeah. Somebody's gonna have a word with a certain foxkin in a minute.
Oof.
It's better than I was expecting.
So you are fascinated for 1 minute. Fascinated is you are compelled to focus your attention on someone or something. You take a -2 to perception and other skill checks, and you can't use actions with the concentrate trait, etc., so on and so forth. You are just, oh, it's kind of a stupefied reaction where you feel like a little foggy, and you're just kind of like, whoa. But you are also given a blessing by the queen. So you will get a +2 on one roll before the end of the session. One roll of your choosing.
Oh shit.
And the queen, like, after she kisses you on the head, she straightens herself up and then looks over to you, Electra, and also bows. And then to you, Willow, and bows. And she, in turn, bows to everyone except Whistler.
This
And then she looks.
bitch.
This poor man's.
She looks to Angharad and says, "Now," and she holds out her palm, face up. "Give me your wretched hand and walk with me."
God damn.
Damn.
And Herod watches all of this happen, and there's kind of a weird glint to her eye when Maddie gets fascinated, and her lip rises slightly, but she manages to keep herself under control. And when the queen offers her hand, Angharad looks over to the party and just nods, bows to them. Worry not for thy Angharad. Soon shall I return, I'm certain. And she will take the queen's hand.
When you place your hand in the queen's hand, she takes her thumb and rubs it over the center of your palm and like the back center of your palm. And you can see her. She has the mask of a smile on her face. And you feel, Angharad, a very palpable, like a very, very palpable just beat. Like if there was a single wave that just broke and echoed across the surface of a still pond when her thumb goes over the top of your palm and back. It's like boo, boo. And then she looks at you, still smiling, and will walk out with you. So, who would like to go first? The group or Angharad? I need to get water. I will give you all a minute to decide because I need more water. I'm out. I'm out of fucking water.
I feel like the group has more to talk about.
Well, and I am
I would like
imagining.
a word.
Yeah, I'm imagining Electra has some is gonna fucking pop off on Maddie here, and so
Oh
Willow's
yeah.
Willow's gonna sense that and be like, Paige Pierre, why don't we take Whistler and go find that dining hall?
Say less.
You sense a
Come on,
disturbance in
Pierre.
the force.
It's like we don't need to be here for that, and also Whistler does not need to be here for that.
Nope. Nope.
And Harrod's fine, I'm sure.
Mm.
It's just like the like middle sibling like senses start fucking sparking off in the back of Willow's brain of like, yeah, I don't want to be here.
Mhm.
This is the time I should disappear.
Yeah. Just to clarify, Piper, did you watch the session?
I did not have time to watch a session.
Okay, okay. Missing context here. There is beef, unspoken beef between Angharad and the Queen. Before you think this is a lovely mother and daughter chat.
I
No,
would
I didn't
not
think that at all.
I
Okay.
would not say that Angharad was visibly upset
The
so much
vibes.
as the vibes are off, but she's not
So
visibly
off.
upset.
A beef most profound.
Oh my god.
Just while we're taking a minute of break, I got my schedule for this week. I work Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 3 to 11 this week. So just pointed that out there now.
Saturday, Sunday, so you're missing Star Wars, and then you're missing Tuesday, which would be the second half of
Rune Lords.
Nope, second half.
No, it's Gold Rush.
Gold Rush.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing Gold Rush, and if we have something Wednesday, which I'm
do
gonna have to have a word with my manager because I told her I can't do afternoons on Tuesdays. So they're gonna be words.
Okay.
Power to you.
Yeah, I
Good
mean,
luck.
if
But
she's
at the same
continuing,
time,
if it's 2 weeks in a row, you do need to have a like
yeah,
word with her and
yeah,
say, hey, if at all possible,
yeah,
I really need it during these time frames.
yeah. But at the same time, I really need the hours. Is the issue?
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally understandable.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's still worth having a conversation and seeing if there's a way you
Yeah.
can swap around, or I know you're not
Yeah.
going to be happy at the thought, but do a morning instead of an afternoon or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll talk and see what I can bargain with. Okay, but back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yes.
So, are we doing?
Madigan, would you like a word?
Hold on,
Are
hold
we
on.
doing Electra and
Yes, we
Maddie
will
first,
do.
or Willow
feel-
and Paige
yeah, I
and
feel like
Pierre
group.
first, or
We'll do Electra and Maddie first, and then
well,
Willow, Pierre, and Paige and Whistler. You guys are hamstraying, it seems
yeah,
like.
yeah. I will say like before they start pop, like Willow just kind of like looks around the room after that, sees Electra's face, kind of blinks, follows her side like line of sight towards Maddie, nods once, turns towards Paige and Pierre. I do think that that dining hall sounds rather interesting. Whistler, if you don't mind, You don't have to bow and well, whatever the queen was implying. Just give us directions.
He immediately bows and says, "Right this way," and will lead you out and about in his proper but hunched stance.
And if Paige and Pierre do not start moving, she will just grab whichever one of their arms is not moving fast enough and fucking push them along.
Pierre is perceptive enough that he notices the little bit of tension in the room, and as soon as Willow suggests it, Paige, you feel like two little hands push you on the back a little bit enthusiastically, and Pierre's like, "Go! I would like to go to the. I'm starving. Oh man, we should go get food."
I imagine Paige was completely oblivious to the growing tension. I imagine that she found like little branch embroideries on the edge of the sheets that she was very like in tuned on.
Mhm.
Pierre just fucking starts ushering her, and she's like, where are we going?
To save Fey food. We're going to eat some enchanted snacks.
Oh, okay. Okay, do you think they have
Quick out of
cookies?
here.
Wait, what happened?
Just
What happened?
the two, like Pierre, like ushering Paige out, and Willow, like one arm out, just like escorting, blocking them off. Okay, we're going. Door closed. Click.
He's like, oh yeah, let's get snacks. He's like, let's get the fuck out of here. He's like, wait, what happened? In 2 minutes, what the fuck happened?
Quick
The door.
question
Yes.
for Joe.
Yes.
The what is it called? Fascinated, right?
Yes. That will wear off by the time that Electra
Yeah.
walks over to you.
The question is it after the effect happens, is it noticeable that it happened? Or no?
No, not really. It's more of like because it is more of a mental thing that kind of hits you. It's almost like the kiss on the head happened and you felt like an instant 3 or 4 shots of tequila go straight to your head, and then you were like, whoa. And then it slowly just ebbed away until you were sober again.
Okay. So it's not something she would recognize after the fact.
Oh, that's what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
you would recognize it after the fact. You would be like, "Whoa, she kissed me on the head and like hit me with a
God damn
wallop
it.
of magic." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is why I don't like Faye.
And the door closes, and Electra and Maddie are alone in this beautiful, lavish little wooden cottage room.
Madigan,
What?
was it not a day ago that you asked me to make sure that everybody is safe?
Yeah. What's your point?
So why is it, less than 10 minutes ago, you actively endangered us?
What are you talking about? I literally just said we wanted a rest.
You're trying to interfere with the Queen.
I wasn't interfering with anything.
No, but you were drawing her ire. Good faith or not, there's a difference between that and literally making things harder on us.
We literally said we'd discuss things later. We're supposed to be resting. He's the
Madigan,
one that
you're not
insisted
there.
we
How do
stay
you
here.
not know? Yeah, I don't want to stay here. On that note, why didn't you let her take that deal? That was the perfect deal for us.
What do you mean?
We've known Angara. I cannot pronounce your name for the life of me. Anghared.
There you go.
Did I?
Angharin.
Yeah, there you
I'm
go.
gonna trip up multiple times, and I'm going to apologize for each and every one. We've known Anghared for less than a day. She's of the Fae. It's far better for us to get this item.
Well, yeah, but like she's basically family.
Basically, we've known her for a day.
Yeah, but Hawk knew her.
We still don't have full confirmation on that.
He's wearing her armor. That's confirmation.
Yeah, people can shape. The Fae can literally shapeshift items.
Okay, then what's the point of saying she knew Hawk then, huh?
Literally to get into our good graces and lead us here? Literally the daughter of the queen?
You realize that she probably doesn't want to be here. Did you see the look on her face?
She still agreed to the deal, didn't she? That's not our concern. Or do you want this box to go lost and literally bring upon, oh, I don't know, the nine hells back to Earth again?
We're gonna
You
find the
realize your
box.
stupid decision could have fucked us all?
Gonna find the goddamn box and the girl.
And what's it gonna
And
cost? Because it's
we
gonna
don't
cost a lot
need
more.
we don't need to sacrifice other people for it.
She's a fae. She's not even a person.
Do you want to say that again?
Yes, I do.
Maddie will get
Unlike you,
really close to Electra.
yeah, Electra will step up to her. I'm looking out for all of humankind here, while you're dancing about for every last person. It's not even her entire life. What, 5 years?
10 years. Do you even recognize how long 10 years is?
I've lived 10 years, so I could say yes, I have.
You may not be a weirdling, and you may not have been not aged like we do, but that's a fifth of your life. Most
And she
people,
willingly paid
most
it.
most people in this line of work die in their 30s. That's a
And
third of your life.
and how about you realize this? She was willing to pay that price to help save us. Or are you really going to spit in the face of that willing dedication?
We don't need to sacrifice more people to get what we
So
need.
you just
We
presume you have
can.
the right to speak for somebody else, do you? You know, because you know her for so long, you have the right to say no on their behalf.
I just suggested that we discuss things more.
Are you in love with this woman or something?
Maddie gives a what the fuck look.
Then stop acting like it. You're
You
literally
may
going to endanger us all further at this rate. And it's not acceptable.
you are willing to give up our lifespan, just for this. When we have already said we could discuss things, we could go find something else for her, for the queen.
And how much bigger of a price it is going to be for us?
We don't know yet. We haven't tried discussing. Wasn't that the whole point of being here?
It's literally something that's going to be worth 10 years of somebody's life. It's not going to be pretty. In fact, it's going to be even worse for us now. If you're going to continue acting like this, go back to Tenmark. You're literally going to endanger us further. You may have forgotten, but we're hunters. We help humanity.
We help people who deserve help, who need help, not just humanity.
And are you so convinced that they need it? Or are you just projecting onto them? Again, you've literally known her for less than a day. How on earth can you pretend to know exactly what's going on through their mind?
They don't know exactly what's going on.
Then stop acting like you
But you
do.
are acting like you do.
I don't. But I know that they're willing to give up something so precious to them
Why don't you give up your years then, huh?
because I don't want to.
And you think, and
I
you
think
think,
willing to give 10 years of your time is a noble sacrifice. It's not one that I'm willing to make, but it's one that they were willing to. You're letting your desires override somebody else's. You're being selfish,
We
Madigan.
we didn't even have to come here. We could have gone to, what was it, Didi?
I didn't want to come here either.
You were the one that started picking flowers.
I started picking flowers because I knew that those idiots would come anyway. And didn't you beg me to look after them?
Yes, I did.
So let
But
me
I
do
meant
my damn
all of
job and
them.
you're being insufferable. Let me do my damn job and stay out of the way if you're not going to act like a proper hunter. And do not presume to speak for somebody else again.
Maddie's fur on her hands and her hair and her tail's all spiking up really hard, and her eyes are dilating slightly. And she kind
Electra's
of
hands moving her whip.
she she kind of clenches her fists a bit and moves her hand to her neck and pushes in on the necklace a bit, and then closes her eyes, taking a deep breath. Maybe it's best if we don't share room.
I couldn't agree more.
She just kind of growling a bit and just heads out, leaves the room.
Okay,
And
well, there's
then,
that scene.
and with that, Electra is left alone with just her sense of duty, and Madigan storms off to
Wander.
wander. Uh, will Angharad?
Hi.
So you are off parading with the queen. She walks hand in hand with you for a little bit and then will allow you to have your hand back. And she just walks beside you for a few minutes in silence, going around the trunk and higher up into the stairs, or up the stairs into the higher canopy of the tree. And from this vantage, as you are walking, you can look over this the sloping stairway, and you can see just all of the life in the tree and all of the different fae below. You can see all of the colors of the different parts of the wood and the branches of plants that are growing inside of this tree. And it is it is beautiful. There is such a powerful sereneness here that is both magically enhanced, but also just it is just wonderfully serene. It is a pure distilled piece of nature. And she walks with you in silence for a bit. Would Anghared break the silence?
No, not at all. She knows well enough not to.
Okay. Okay. So after a few minutes of walking in silence, just getting higher and higher up, which this coincidentally is the way to Angharad's room and also to the throne and the actual queen's domain at the apex of the tree. But as you are walking, the queen has her hands laced to her hands together with her fingers laced together, and she eyes forward without looking down at you, says, "Ah, my sweet beloved, why is it that you have come back to me truly? 'Tis not for this witch, is it?
Admittedly, the witch concerns me little. And Herod gathers herself for a second, looks down. Mother, no need was there to ensorcel the young woman in that way. Gladly would she have obeyed thee.
She continues walking ahead, and there's again like that same just mask of a smile, like a half feigned smile, and she nods her head. True, a needless show of power. Your hunters are smart. They know what we can do. But you know what humans can do too, don't you?
There's a small flinch from Angharad. Yes, with these crimes I am well familiar. Thou hast asked me why I have come? I believe in assisting these people. I may be able to fulfill my purpose.
She she furrows her brows in like a curious expression. And why wouldst thou want to finish your story?
Wouldst thou an end name it? Is not reality a story unending? There is yet much for myself and for the others to live through. In my opinion, Mother, 'twould be folly to name it an ending. 'Twould be no true ending, after all, if our happy family were rent apart.
She she just sits in that response for a minute. And you can see or more sense that there's like a tightening, like a slow twisting of rope, getting more and more tension on it. And after what seems like an infinitely long silence, you hear her very, very controlled in her voice say, "You would seek to rob yourself of me? End thy story."
And Herod will there's not quite a flinch, but there's a bit of consideration in her eyes and looks down again, looks back up as they're walking. Nay, mother, 'twas not the truth I spake. The truth I spake was that I would hate to have this family rent apart. A family which surely includes thee. Not lightly did I offer to spend a decade in your court. Eh, Truth be told, the lands outside are lonely, and there is. And Herod looks out over the Fey realm beneath them. A comfort here I seldom feel elsewhere. It would be good for the spirit, I think, to within these walls dwell a little longer.
The queen stops and she turns to you, like shoulders pointed towards you, and on her face, the almost forced smile is gone, and it is replaced with a look of pity almost. And she just shakes her head very, very slightly and says, "Oh, sweet babe, why don't you stay? Why doth you pretend to be one of them? There is no blood in you that does not run. And why are you drawn to her? One who forsook you." And you see where her hands are clasped and her fingers intertwined, where the tips of her fingers meet her knuckles, white with tension.
And Herod takes a long while to answer, not because she's being difficult, but because she's struggling to find the words herself. And it's not that she's looking away from the queen either. She knows that that would be folly to do at this point. Uh, she's looking back at her as she tries to figure out the words for what she wants to say. And oh god, wait, let me chaos roll this. Let me chaos roll this.
Please do.
Let's see. Oh Christ. Okay. Oh no. At least it isn't a one. Um and Herod will let's break some etiquette laws here, Chief. And Herod will reach out and try to overlay her hands on the queen's tense ones.
You successfully reach over and set your hands on top of her. You can feel the tightness in her fingers and her grip. And she, like, you could tell they were a little, like, when you squeeze really tightly and there's a little bit of a shake and you
Mhm.
place your hands on them, you feel them stop shaking. She goes statue still.
Mother, were it not for thy kindness and affection, there would be no Angharat standing afore you today. That is not something easily forgotten, a debt which I will always owe thee, something not easily repaid. And yet, in loving this Angharad, thou must also love her nature. It is in my nature to love that which has cast me aside, as surely as I am beloved. I have made no claims to these people, other than that I would lend them assistance. But were it not for my beloved, surely I would spend my days here. I beg thee, 'tis not an easy decision, and were it possible, I would live here and have a visit every so often. But just as I beg thee to understand my nature, I understand thine. I fear.
Her expression is flat. There is no joy. There is no sorrow or understanding on her face as she listens to you. You just see a completely flat affect. Almost a hint like of some bit of vitriol. Just the tiniest drop. You want that which casts you aside. I see. And thy nature cannot be ignored. I understand. You feel the tension in her hands fade, and she drums the tips of her fingers against her palms and kind of pulls her hands away from you. Much have you given me to think on. Much to consider. I will not take your 10, not 5, not 10, not 20 years. No, if I am to have my way, I would have it all. And she looks at you, and you feel the full weight of her will press on you. Roll me a, let's see, can I request a saving throw? Just roll me a saving throw. But I will tell you, it is a DC 45.
Oh my god, Joe!
Excuse me, what the fuck? My brother in Christ, have you forgotten we are level 1?
This
Plus
is a Fey
6.
Queen, so fucking. It
I
makes
gotta.
sense.
This feels like a will save.
It is a will save.
it's plus 6.
Mhm.
26 versus 45. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking see what we've got here. Wait a
You
second.
crit success. If you crit,
Just gotta
That-
crit. Come on.
I can't crit. It's impossible for me to crit.
If you
Oh,
roll
right.
20, you
Pathfinder.
can get a failure.
Right, Pathfinder's fucking numbers. They're all weird.
I rolled a 2.
so a nat 20 does jack shit in Pathfinder.
A
What's the
nat
point of rolling?
20, a nat 20 kicks your degree of success up by 1. So if you would otherwise fail, it can kick a failure up to a success or a success to a critical success. But if you cannot hit above a failure, you go from a critical fail to a fail. So there are enemies where you are not able to hit them or not able to succeed outright. But then on the flip side, there are enemies with which you cannot actually miss them because they are so much worse than you. But the queen, in this moment, she looks at you, Anghared, and you feel like a weight on your shoulders. And there is a deep sense of like sorrow, hurt, like genuine hurt. And then you feel that sorrow turn a little bit, and it rolls over and doubles in size, and it becomes anger. And all of that rolls over again, and it becomes hatred. And there is a weight dropped on your shoulders that hits you so hard it takes you to one knee. It is like carrying a stone on your back. And there is a part of you that's like reflexively, I need to stand up. I need to right myself. I have to be presentable in front of the queen. And in that moment, you try to adjust. Your other leg buckles and you fall prostrate, hands to the floor, head bowed before the queen. And the queen takes a moment as you are bowed before her, as low as you can be. And the queen kneels before you, not quite at your eye level. She doesn't want to be at your eye level. And she looks not in your eyes, but more just at you as a whole. She just kind of gazes at you. You are so young, and yet so lovely. You've grown so much in such a short time. But here you are, broken before me. Let me remind you, a debt not easily repaid, and a duty not easily forgotten. There is a debt that remains. And I will never forget. I give you my word. I will not harm you. And I will not take you until the crow calls tomorrow morning. If you stay I will find the girl, the witch, for your friends, as would be my duty to them. And I will keep her, and I will keep you. They may have their box. I care not for trinkets. I care for those sad, broken things. You know this. It is my nature. And one does not easily forget thy nature. And she reaches a hand over and carefully takes a finger and tucks your hair behind your ear.
Herod, who I imagine is quite cowed by this. It just has struggling on the ground, has stopped struggling quite some time ago, doesn't bother trying to look up and knows that it's not worth it. But she does suck in a breath. Mother, I do love thee.
You feel her eyes just bearing down on you. And there's a pause. And she says, I know. And that is why I must cast you out. To teach you a lesson. If you only love that which you cannot have. If you only love that which casts you out, then I will do what I must. She stands up, and as she stands and takes a step back, the weight on your back and shoulders just gone. And you feel yourself like for a second there was no even not even a breath. It was like a vice, and it is now just gone.
As she's laying there, does the queen move at all? In my head, she's leaving, but I'm not sure if she is.
She has taken a good few steps back. There is about 10 feet between you, where before there was only inches. Now she is 10 feet back, and she stares at you. And if you right yourself, she will ask a question.
For a while, Ingrid will lay there with her eyes going wide and taking kind of shaking breaths before she lays her palms against the ground and with a wince just starts to shakingly push herself up, but not fully. And she still remains with her head bowed, sort of in a Degeza style bow, before she can fully right herself again. And it it will take her a bit to right herself from there. She allows some space.
When you finally right yourself after that long pause in a deferential gesture, you can see that she is staring at you, eyes half lidded, the disdain on her face apparent as she has taken the role of a parent disciplining a child. She looks at you, and there is no decorum about this. She bold-faced stares at you and tilts her head. Where is your beloved?
And Herod just there's a wrench in her heart, and she doesn't answer immediately. Her brows knit. I do not know, Mother. I was told that this group would meet up with her again, and I do not know where she has gone at present.
There is, as you say that, just the slightest twitch in the corner of her eye and in the corner of her mouth. And you see that slow bubbling anger rise again, and she says, "You do not know. Then as you are mine, as you are my beloved, I am not yours." Leave me. Consider your deal. And remember your nature.
King Herod will bow again, and she stays bowed a moment as her mouth opens and closes. And she doesn't quite yet start to back up. When she does, she will back up backward, that is to say, without turning her back. Um, Mother, there are many days I wish it were otherwise. I don't understand, but dying Herod shall obey. And she will quietly start to back away, backward.
You back away, and as you start to depart, her whole body stock still. Her eyes watch you. Those pale, white, piercing eyes stare right at the back of your head, and you feel them watching you all the way down the tree. And never once do you feel that sense of being watched alleviate you in the entire walk. Every hesitation in your step, every second guess as maybe you should turn back and say something, or would it be too much to break decorum, or every moment You are watched until you get to the base of the stairs. And there is another thing that you know in your heart, another seed of knowledge that is planted in you by her power. There is a spare bed in the guest room.
As she's walking down the stairs, once she's committed herself, she tries to walk straight and with purpose, but can't quite manage it. There's just the weight of too much going on and a very familiar cold feeling across the back of her neck, a sort of twisting sensation and an emptiness in the pit of her stomach. This familiar sensation of being cast away. And instead of going directly to the guest room, Angharad will walk to the gate. She won't cross it, but she'll stay by the gate to the outside world, just staring outside for a little while.
Okay. As you are staring out, there are other conversations that were happening in time with this. And right around the time you reach the bottom of the stairs and you feel the staring stop, and you stare out at the world before you, once again feeling lost. There is a familiar tingle in the back of your head as you hear the commotion of a handful of people walking down. Amongst those people, some of the fairies and other creatures, a centaur, a cyclops, and as they all part this crowd moving away, Madigan wanders down the stairs. And you both, seemingly by fate, meet each other's eyes. And there is an understanding of emotion that both of you have walked away from hard conversations. What do you do?
Well, Maddie will 100% make her way over to Ingrid. Like, she kind of, she's really pissed off after the conversation, but she's trying to not let her anger take over. And she'll see Ingrid and try and she doesn't smile, but she's kind of like you can tell she feels a bit better seeing her. And she'll make her way up to Ingrid and be like, Hey, do you want to like get out of here?
As Maddie approaches, Angharad glances at her, initially can't quite meet her eye, but then does smile and attempt to seem more normal than she is at the moment. And at the prospect of getting out of here, she takes a deep breath. I would not cause more offense to Her Majesty than I already have. 'Twould be a terrible thing for thy mission.
Maddie was kind of like thinking more on the conversation she had with Electra, but kind of hearing Inherit's words is like, wait, what happened? Are you okay?
Worry not for thy Angharad. It is nothing I have not once before weathered, twice before. I suppose all things come in threes.
Well, I'm gonna worry about you regardless. So there's no point in telling me not to. But what? I mean, what happened?
Angharad pauses. Her brows work over her head. Madigan, does something trouble thy heart? Aside from whatever matters may have transpired with me.
Mm, she kind of just she kind of just like looks agitated and annoyed, and she just I really don't get how Lecter could act like that. Don't I don't think you have to sacrifice your life for all this. And Lecter disagreed. It's a noble sacrifice. We don't need sacrifice. There's enough of that going around. More than
There is a sad, sympathetic smile on Angharad's face, and she will reach out to wrap an arm around Maddie in a hug if permitted.
yeah.
Ah, how difficult 'tis to deal with such matters, child. Well do I understand thy frustrations. To watch every morn as those you care for depart again and again, once more to face almost certain death. 'Tis no small feat, Madigan, no thing to be taken lightly, and yet I implore thee to consider what might be won. 'Tis no terrible thing to be here, Not for this Angharad. Thou needest not worry for me.
Maddie kind of pushes back so she can look at Ingrid, and she looks like she wants to outburst and just outright say, "No, you can't do that." But when she was hearing Herod's words, she was really her hands were digging into her palms a bit, maybe leaving little pinpricks in her hands. Um, but she wanted to make an outburst at Herod, but she actively kind of bites at her tongue a bit, and she says, "Do you want to be here? Do you like it here? Is this a choice you want to make?"
Were it not for the complications of my nature, I would have been happy to dwell here among the flowers and the boughs, where it is peaceful and calm, where fire and metal cannot reach me. Yes, I would have been happy to dwell here, but it is in my nature to be loved and abandoned, and so it is. Thou needst not worry about my staying here, Madigan. Tis no longer an option the Queen fancies, except in a nature most absolute, a nature which I am afraid and truly pained to say I cannot grant her.
You don't. y- You won't be abandoned by me. We could, travel together and stuff. And you're already helping us, and we we can all go see Hawk together, and things will be fine. We can figure things out. I want to be your friend. I consider you my friend. Yeah, it's been a day, but I don't know. I just trust you. And you're my friend, you're my kin, and I'm not going to leave you to something that you don't feel comfortable with. even if I'm gonna go through hell to do it. I mean, worst comes to worst, I can't go back to Terramar. Oh well. We can always just travel the woods together and stuff. I've been here for so long. Can't be that bad. And if we've got each other's backs, we'll be fine.
As Egghead listens, her shoulders at one point start to shake, and she doesn't quite bite the tip of her knuckle, but it seems as if she might for a moment. And her shoulders get more and more tense as this continues. What a kind heart thou hast, a kind and loving heart, one that is ill suited for the forest in which we find ourselves. A heart that it gladdens me to know. But there is much you do not know, much thou couldst not know. And while every fibre of my being longs for such a day, I now, it seems so very far.
I don't care what I don't know. I know the you now, and I like the you that I know. And and even for stuff I don't know, there's stuff you don't know about me. But we're still friends, right?
We are still kin.
Then stay with me. If that's okay with you.
There's a moment of silence and consideration and conflict on Angharad face, but it's not quite clear what the conflict is from the outside, just that she's thinking about something. And her hand drops to the mark on her palm, absent mindedly as she's considering. If thou wouldst my companionship enjoy, then yes. What shall I show thee of these lands? There is much to admire.
And with that, Maddie and Angharad are.
I actually have something more to
Oh,
add.
go for it.
Yeah.
What is the expression on Inherit's face right now?
That's a very difficult one. uh
Or is there something Maddie could pick up, I guess?
Yeah, there's plenty of just things strewn about, both twigs, rocks, leaves, plants. Like,
Joe, I mean,
sorry.
All right. Do you want to do this as an insight check or do you want me to tell you? Because there's
what
a
would
lot of layers. There's an onion
what
going on here.
what would you prefer? Because like I'm fine if you would prefer I roll,
Hmm.
but it kind of
But
depending on what is said.
they're having an actual moment here. So
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And Herod is genuinely happy to have company, but she's very deep in a very deep-seated despair at present, um, and sort of listless and unmoored are the words that I would use. She's usually somebody who's very gathered and seems to know which direction she wants to go in, but right now she seems almost a bit dazed, um, like she's been struck very hard and hasn't quite regained focus afterward. Um, and while she is happy for the company, there is a part of her as well that seems afraid. Perhaps not of Maddie. It's not like a physical fear so much as an existential one. And that's what I would say is on Angharrod's face right now. Take that as you will.
Hmm. Anga, you please promise me you'll stay by my side.
At the word promise, Angharrod's brows rise, and some of the fear intensifies, but also some of it seems to fall away. She seems, if anything, a little more off step than before. But she doesn't hesitate very long in answering. Is that truly what thou wishest?
I'm absolutely certain.
And not shall sway thee?
Unless you don't want to be. I'm
No,
not going to force you.
this Angharrod promises to stay by thy side so long as thy kind heart shall abide me.
Maddie smiles. She kind of like she gives a slightly toothy grin. Then I guess you better get used to hanging around me. I'm told I'm pretty rambunctious.
Oh? And who was it that said such a thing?
A lot of people actually. But mostly Hawk.
There
Though
is
it takes one to know one.
Angharrod laughs, and it's an actual genuine laugh, although it's a muted one. She's a muted person, but it is a real laugh. She never called me that. Alexandria had many other words for this Angharad, but never rambunctious.
I mean, you are pretty calm, so. But hey, as long as you're by my side, I'm going to protect you. So you don't have to make any dumb deals. We'll figure this out some other way.
Yes, some other way.
And with that, we pan out from the two strange companions who met from a mutual friend. And we turn towards a probably rambunctious group who have made their way to a very communal eating area in the chaos of the Fey room or Fey realm. There is Whistler, Willow, Paige, and Pierre. Pierre, who is kind of shelled up a little bit because there's a lot of strange things around. Hands in pockets, kind of hunched shoulders. It's a mix of trying to appear kind of threatening, but also not catch too much attention. But you are all walking. It's not too far of a walk from the dining room area, or from the area where you will lay your head for the evening, to where there is food and drink. And despite their evening being the general mood of the lighting and some of the beautiful, like, natural flora and fauna, there's still a lively atmosphere. This is a place that is it's not always hopping, but there's a pretty good level of energy around any time of day, as there are some fey creatures who are nocturnal. So you all find a relatively calm space. Lots of fey in the area who are giving you a wide berth. The only one who seems to be near you at all in any respect would be Whistler, as he is your attendant for the evening.
Handler, cough, cough.
The queen gave him a very explicit order to dote on you as dutifully as he would the queen. So ask of him, and you shall receive anything that he would do for the queen.
Paige has an ask.
Mm-hmm.
Pick a card, any card.
Yep, exactly. As they're walking. Did they reach it yet, or are they still walking?
Whichever you prefer. It could be a little bit of a walk, and this happens on the way there, or
Yeah, on the way there. After Paige is just like, and yeah, there's tea happening that you don't want to be in the vicinity of, but you'll hear about it later. You don't want to be there when the tea is boiling.
Yes. So, you ask Whistler to pick a card,
Yeah.
and how do you splay the cards out? Because the second you break them out, Pierre's like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this here now with this strange wooden man?"
She just looks up at him as if what he's saying makes no, as if he just told her that the sky is red and water, like, and that the ocean is green. It's like, what? What do you mean what I'm doing? Anyway, shut up. She fucking pulls out the deck of cards and just like a little fancy like shuffle from like one hand to the other. And she's just like very cleanly splays out the cards in the traditional pick a card pose. And she steps forward ahead of the group and she starts walking backwards so that she can face Whistler and the rest of them. And she very proudly holds up the deck. Um, did I say that? Yeah, she like splays out the cards like normal. She's like, "Hello, could you pick a card, please?"
You being this close to him as you're walking now, there's something that you take notice of right away. The eyes, Whistler's eyes, the sclera of the eye is black. The actual iris, the color of the eye, is like a gold, like a very, very like dimly lit gold. Like there is an actual glow to it. And you can see behind his mask, his eyes flit down and then flick back up to you, and he says, "Which card, madam?"
Whichever one you want to. Any
Uh,
of them would work.
it's something of a game.
Yes.
He looks to Willow and then looks back to you and says, "Am I to lose or to win?"
You're simply to participate.
Yes. It's not a game that you win or lose. It's a game that you have fun.
He looks at the cards again, and then like there's a beat where he pauses and says, "I see." And with two really long, very, very spindly fingers, he will pluck a random card.
Okay. So, don't show me the card, but take a good look at it and remember what it says on the back. If you need help, Willow is there. So is Pierre. They can help you remember if you're not familiar with the card faces.
He looks at the card and then rotates it and turns it upside down, and you can see him examining it. He's looking at it like an alien would look at technology. Pierre looks. Pierre is looking at him and then looks at you and looks back at him and just like shrugs. Good. He waits for your next command.
Okay, so do you remember what it is? Don't tell me. That is part of the game. Do you remember?
He blinks and looks at the card, or he blinks and then looks at the like your hands and says, "Yes, madam.
Okay,
Am I to tell you the card now?"
no, not yet. We'll do that later. But for now, I just need you to put it back into the deck. Right there. And she, like, opens it up so that he can place it back in.
He very carefully like slides it back into place and then with one finger pushes it in so it's very pristine or like pristinely in line with the rest of them.
Hmm. Okay. And she will start shuffling the card. Okay, so the trick is very complicated. So what I have to do here is I'm going to guess your card, and it's going to be one of these. And she starts shuffling it, and she's like, "Oh wait, I have to reshuffle it again." And as she's reshuffling it again, she she's walking backwards, right? So
Uh-huh.
as she's walking backwards, the edge of her heel like connects with the floor, and
Oh.
she falls flat on her ass, and the cards go everywhere.
The cards scatter all over the floor. There you hear a very, very tiny gasp. And from right beside Pierre, like totally unnoticed to him and to Willow, there is what appears to be a tiny, floating, insectoid-looking female figure, who, mind you, is completely naked. She is not wearing clothes, and she has little dragonfly wings and bright bug-like eyes. And you hear the tiniest like, and then she flies down and will like hide behind something.
See, there is more of an audience here. And as Paige is just like on the ground and the cards are like fluttering onto the ground, you see that she kind of just like lifts her hands up and like her hands go on top of her head and like oh no, oh no, oh no, that's what's supposed to happen. And she like stands up and you see that she kind of takes off her hat and like runs her hand through her hair. He's like, well, hopefully, we can still do the trick. Oh, look, this is one of the cards. Is this it? And she picks it up, one of the cards that was stuck to the top of her hat.
You pluck the card, and is it Whistler's card?
Yes. That was part of the trick.
Whistler looks at all the cards on the ground and looks up. He pauses and looks up to you very slowly and sees the card. He doesn't react. He stares at it.
You are, so this is when you tell her if it is actually the card that you were picked earlier.
He looks to Willow and then looks back to you, Paige, and says, Madame, that is my card.
Fucking jump in the air like a fist bump, like, yes!
Pierre does a very, very slight clap from the bush where the tiny little pixie is hiding. You hear very, very soft. It sounds like tiny snapping, like snapping your fingers over and over. But she is clapping. Her hands are just very small.
Cage does a bow as if there's an entire crowd applauding.
Whistler, mind you, does not clap. He does not catch on that he is supposed to be amazed. He tilts his head a little bit and then looks at all of the cards scattered on the floor and says, Wouldst thou like me to tidy the cards?
Oh, it's okay. I can pick them up right now. That's part of the trick. It's a little bit of a cleanup, but it's okay. You know, sometimes we play 52 pickup.
He watches you start to grab some of the cards and then tilts his head again and looks around. Is that another game?
Oh, of a sort.
He looks to you with Willow and says, Do all humans play this game?
It depends on which one you're talking about. The one that she just did or the 52 pickup?
Tilts his head the other way, and you get the impression that he does not understand what to ask next, but he is very confused.
And she just kind of smiles. Whistler, do you have just people around here that are for entertainment, like musicians that play just for the enjoyment of the music they make?
There is like a full body nod of like, finally something I fucking know about. You see him like shoulders up and down, head nod, and he just goes, Ah, yes. Madame would like the minstrels and the bards.
No, but it's just this, what she just did, is a version of that we do. She gestures towards Paige, and her brother gestures toward Pierre.
Awkwardly waves.
Their primary jobs, or one of their primary jobs, is they're entertainers. They're trying to entertain you.
Is it
Tilts his
working?
head. And he takes a long, wooden finger and scratches at his chin, and you hear the scraping of wood. And he says, I am amused.
Yes! She continues picking up her cards.
As you, Pierre helps you, and he, like, as he's helping, you just hear him be like, "C'est a tough audience."
But it's a new one, so we can try extra hard. You know,
See,
if someone liked it, she looks up, nods towards the bush.
You see behind, in that bush, there's just the tiniest little, like, sliver of bug-like face that you can see, and she hides behind one of the bigger leaves. She could not be more than 8 inches tall, from the tip of her head to the toes of her feet, or extended weird bug legs.
What pattern? Is it green?
It is jet black. Actually, hold on, let me
Okay.
get a picture.
Okay.
And while that is happening, Willow just kind of will lean down and pick up one of the cards that's closest to her feet, hand it over to Pierre, and look at Whistler again. I know that your queen told you to serve us as you serve her, but I can assure you that at least the three of us are not used to such things. All we'd ask is that you make sure we don't get lost and we don't do anything that's going to kill us. Other than that, you don't have to worry about serving us or entertaining us. We just want to talk.
He looks at you, a little wary, but he nods. I will endeavor to abide by these restrictions, madame.
Do they truly seem like restrictions to you?
All ties that bind align us to our new goal. Restrictions need not be negative, madame. And he bows as if to be like, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn.
You certainly like bowing a lot.
He looks up a little bit and then kind of bows a little bit lower.
She knows a losing battle when she sees one. And looks kind of behind her towards the bush and whatever creature is in the bush. And I do think you can come out. We're not going to bite you or anything. In fact, I think we're looking for the alcohol. Do you have alcohol?
She pokes her head out from behind a gigantic leaf, which she is using partially to cover herself, almost like a blanket. And she pokes her head up and then flies out from behind it. And she, in a fraction of a second, like a sudden zip of motion, she is 3 feet from your face. And she is very insect-like. Despite the humanoid features that she has, seeing her up close like that, it is like seeing a very, very large bug, in the same way it kind of makes you jump for a second, because she's very fast. And she zips up, she tilts her head, and you can see you hear the soft zzz of her wings beating like crazy, and she straightens up and then just zips off in a direction.
Kind of
Whistler, huh?
she's Willow just kind of blinks and takes a second to process and then looks towards Whistler with this very was that good or bad?
He, hands behind his back, nods and says, the only word it would seem translates betwixt our languages is alcohol, madam.
Ah. Well, That should also entertain the siblings. Looks at Paige and Pierre.
Paige, who has gathered all of her cards.
Pierre sits up, just kind of scratches his head, like, "Oh, how come alcohol is not the same in our language?"
What'd you say?
He's like, "How come alcohol is not the same in our language?"
I don't know. I didn't invent it. It should be.
They also work at a bar where they serve alcohol.
Yes, I do work as a bartender. I do all of the cool tricks and all of the things.
Whistler says nothing, but is listening. He is very much like, you can read the body posturing as he examines you, kind of like a confused dog, but he is very much intrigued by all of the weird human shit that you guys do.
You do know that if you have a question, you can ask. You won't be angry by anything.
If it would please the madams and sir, I do have many curiosities of humankind.
Oh, this is going to be good. Okay.
Well, let's go find a table, sit down, and we can play 20 questions over a meal.
Fast forward like 10 to 15 minutes, and you are seated at a table. And as you are seated there, Whistler, like the seats are stumps, and the table itself appears to be grown as a gigantic mushroom. So it's soft. It is firm but soft, or sturdy. Sorry, sturdy but a little soft on top. And the tree stumps that sit around it, they don't move when you sit on them, but they will relocate if you desire them to, with just a simple nudge or a little bit of force of will. You can cause the stump that you're sitting on, to relocate if you need to scoot towards someone.
Can it
But
extend in height?
yeah, actually, it can.
Let's fucking go.
Booster seat for Paige.
Let's go.
But you sit around. That pixie eventually finds their way back, and they are flying much slower. They have a single bottle in their arms. It is a very unusual shape. It is kind of like a wine bottle shape, but it's almost like the glass is shaped more like like an Erlenmeyer flask with a very, very long neck.
Oh.
And she is flying with that. The glass, mind you, is slightly taller than her, and there is a very viscous green liquid sloshing around inside. And
As
she
she
sets it down.
as she sets it down, Paige is like, "Oh my gosh," and she cannot help but comment. It's like, "Wow, you must be really, really strong. This thing is huge, and you're so fast."
She doesn't talk, but when you kind of, I imagine Paige is very animated when she speaks.
Extremely.
Yeah, so when you're positively talking and like animated with a cheery voice, the little pixie, like, she looks at you and she does not say anything, but she makes like a buzzing noise, like "Zzz," and then stands up with like a more straight, and with her hands on her hips. From Pierre, like, Pierre is sitting kind of closer to you, Paige, and um he's got his hands on the table as he like examines the bottle and also looks at her. And Pierre like puts his hand over his mouth to whisper to you, and he just goes, "I feel like she is a touch indecent, don't you think?"
She like whispers to him.
Rude.
Is that a language that she is using?
Yeah.
Say what language she's using?
Is that a language she is using?
Whistler turns his head and he looks to you, Willow, and says, "She speaks the language of trees. One of whispers and whistling."
That is so cool.
He looks to you, Paige, and it's confusion, but like at the idea of like, is that a compliment?
Considering how excitable she is and the big smile she's got and the practical like stars she's got in her eyes, probably.
He just
But
tilts his head, but the the food and drink um that slowly accrues on the table as the fairy goes to like buzz and then grab something else and bring it over, and then buzz away in a different direction and grab something else and bring it over. there's there's never more than a single treat at a time. There's one green cookie, and it is very obviously a cookie. It is like a sugar cookie with like green sugary dust on top of it. And then there is what appears to be a not a scone. I can't remember what it's called.
muffin?
A macaron. There it is.
Mm.
And there, just after another pause, she brings a drink, this time in what appears to be like a normal, like a drinking glass. And there is a silvery, kind of shimmery liquid. It's actually remarkable when you see it, because you've seen drinks that have a gold and amber tint, ones that look kind of copper and bronze, but this one, it looks like water, but when the light hits it, it shines and shimmers like silver.
Willow
I'll
just
say
kind of watch. Go ahead.
just every time she brings something over, met with like smile and thanks and more compliments from Paige.
After she brings a few things, Willow just kind of like tilts her head, looks at Whistler. Is it possible to tell her that she can't just sit with us if she wants to? She doesn't have to serve us.
He tilts his head and says, "Is that what you wish for me to say, ma'am?"
If it's not impolite to say in your culture.
He, without asking or clarifying, the pixie like lands and drops something off, and she gets ready to zip away again. And then you hear Whistler from his whole body. You hear this like a very, very like echoey rumble, and it vibrates out of him from his torso and his neck and his hair, and you hear the like rustle of leaves from the hair that is behind his head, and it is apparent why he is called Whistler now. And the pixie stops and turns, and then you hear her like buzz back at him, and there's a brief exchange where the little one, you hear like bzz, bzz, and then you hear Whistler just and then she nods and looks at you, Willow, and you can see her like open her mouth and flutter her wings, and she starts to buzz, and the buzz kind of dies, and she's just waves with one hand. It's a very stilted, awkward wave, like she doesn't know how to do it, but she waves.
Willow will just kind of like head snapping back and forth as the noises is going back and forth between the two of them. It'll look at her and just kind of like with a little smile, will nod and give a little wave.
When you wave back, she smiles like positive reinforcement. I did it right. And then she will go over to like one of the treats and just like carve out a piece with her hand and just start eating it.
Oh. I'll say if there was a cookie, it has been claimed.
There are several cookies. There are
Okay.
several different cookies of different varieties that have all been landed or deposited. Whistler turns to you, Willow, and to you, Paige, and says this and says, "She would like you to know her name is Vivette, and she is pleased to meet you, mesdames and sir."
Vivette.
Vivette. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Pish. This is my brother Pierre. And Willow.
Whistler, without wasting a beat, turns to her, and you hear him do his rumble back at her, translating. And she looks at Whistler, and then with her mouth full of like some stuffed part of pastry, she took like probably a quarter inch, and is holding it like a slice of cake. And she looks at you, Paige, with just smeared pastry on her face, and she gives you the same sort of like kind of awkward, stilted, robotic wave, but she looks very overtly happy.
Big smile. Paige is practically glowing. As she just take another chomp bite out of cookie.
Whistler looks to you both and will, in that moment of feeling kind of welcomed and having a brief exchange with Vivette, he looks at you both and says, "If I may be so bold, mesdames and sir, why hast thou come to our humble home looking for a witch? I was under the impression humans don't care for magic."
Imagine Willow has snagged something that looks more bread than pastry if she could manage to get it.
Oh yeah.
And it kind of like nibbles on it and tilts her head. At least in Termarked they don't, but we are far more concerned about, well, the artifact she carries. If it's truly what we fear it is, then the turmoil that happened, what, 40, 50 years ago? How long ago was it?
50 years ago. Yeah.
Turmoil that happened 50 years ago might just be, oh, might just look like a nice sunny day.
He tilts his head. And there is a curiosity. And you both have a high enough perception to notice this. As he tilts his head, you hear the low thrum, like the beats of his whistling, as if he is unconsciously translating the exchange, the question he asked, and your response, so that he can include Vivette. And Vivette just looks at him and looks at you, and he tilts his head the other way, like almost like a metronome, and says, 50 years ago, by human reckoning, that
Willow nods.
would be but only a portion of a fey lifetime. And we have been here for many lifetimes.
Willow just kind of, there's this arch of the brow, and she's studying Whistler kind of curiously. Then, was there any significant change of note that you remember from 50 years ago?
He looks at Paige and Pierre. Pierre is listening intently because this is a history lesson, and he does have an affection for history. And say what?
Sorry.
Did you just say
Nerd.
Yeah. So Whistler looks to you, Willow, and says, "There was a disturbance in the wood. The trees tell it better. But they moved."
Willow nods. I don't know quite how it works, and what exactly the differences are between your world or your realm and ours. But 50 years ago, the movement of the trees nearly destroyed all of humanity.
He looks a little lost, and Vivette chimes in and buzzes a little bit. And he buzzes back, and then she buzzes. And he tilts his head at Vivette, and then looks up and says, "Vivette says she knew humans from before. She remembers a garden somewhere far away. She used to live there in a mushroom circle. I remember no such places." And he looks a little like his head turns and he stares at the table, kind of absently thinking, but talking to you still. "I remember never meeting humans, never seeing them. And the trees that I spoke to, they knew no humans. But those trees are gone now. Some of the ones I spoke to for ages, I know not where they went."
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. You must miss them.
He looks over to you, Paige, and you roll me a diplomacy check.
Okie doke. I gotta. Sorry, I gotta
Skills?
remember. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
It's like, where the fuck is it?
Handprint.
Handprint. $16.
Also, I have to compliment your Page dice. I think the dice are very Page.
Thank you.
So with the 16, he tilts his head, and you can see that there's a like with what little body language Whistler seems to emote with. You're starting to catch on to the little idiosyncrasies that kind of denote a particular emotion. And when he tilts his head and looks at you and kind of points his chin upward, and he looks out of the corner of his eye, you get the sense that he's like warming up to you a little bit. Like he the sentiment of saying that like you empathize with him and he must miss these things, that these trees he knew. He seems partially moved by that. And he nods once and says, I do miss them. I have not seen a familiar face from before that time. And he looks back to Willow. From before that age.
Willow has very quietly pulled out a little notebook and is kind of scratching a few notes to herself. And the fucking hamster wheels have started spinning. She has gone from trying to be the diplomatic, like, okay, let's translate what's going on back and forth, to now she has been distracted. And she looks up to him and just there's kind of that furrow in her brows as she's thinking. So, if you've never met a human before, you knew trees that never met human before, and roughly the same time everything went to shit in, well, the human world, all of a sudden you start running into us. There's only a few logical conclusions to come from that, all of them I don't know that anybody has thought of.
He tilts his head. Not many humans have come to talk to me. And his head whips around and he looks at you, Paige. And it's not it's not like he whips around suddenly, but it's not threateningly that he looks at you. It is like with that tinge of warmth to it.
There's a big smile. She says, well, now you have, what, 1, 2, 3, probably she said, you have at least 3 human friends now?
He tilts his head the other way and looks over to Willow. Wouldst thou call upon me, then my aid and my service?
Willow kind of pauses in what she's writing and looks up, and then looks towards Paige, then looks back at him. Only what you are willing to give, and freely give, I guess I could say. The humans are not so prone to contracts in relationships. We do not want a servant. We do not want somebody you to do anything you don't want to do or would not like to do.
He
But
tilts his head.
if you would like to talk, we are more than happy to talk. Or anything else.
Willow, go ahead and roll me. Let's see. I need to learn the skills better, but I think nature or society.
Okay, we're gonna go with the society then. I think unless fucking
Unless you have a lore that you think would work really well here, you could do lore summer.
I don't have lore shit set up yet, but I'm assuming Summer is very keyed in to listening to this conversation and what's been going on.
Yes.
So, would she give any benefit if I rolled nature?
Yeah, I would say if you rolled nature, Summer peering over your shoulder could give you a +1.
Eeny,
Just a
meeny, miny, mo then.
little bump.
Fuck it. Circumstance +1 for this? I think that's how you do it. God damn it.
That's still pretty good. So with a 16, much like Paige, he has warmed up to you a little bit, and you didn't notice it before, but there is like Summer has been very present in your mind, just in the background, but now she has more enthusiastically materialized, and as you kind of speak back and forth to him, and there's a few terms that kind of catch your attention, like freely give or contract and friend. These words kind of ring in your ear, and you see out of the corner of your eye Summer standing beside you, kind of rubbing her chin, one hand and like holding an elbow, and the other hand stroking her chin. She says, I don't know if you noticed it, but I think he doesn't understand the concept of friendship. It seems his entire view is all bargaining.
Willow just kind of tilts her head, looks at Summer out of the corner of her eye, and just kind of straightens, lifts her chin, straightens herself up a bit, kind of almost as if she was trying to lean back in her seat, and gives a little nod. Tell me, Whistler, what does the term or idea of a friend mean to you? I believe we might be having a little bit of a cultural difference here.
He tilts his head and kind of bends forward and rocks a little bit in his seat. He is, mind you, he's not really like sitting on a stump. He is more perched on it, like hands next to his feet on the stump, and squatting on it. And he pauses and thinks and says, Friend? Friend is one who calls to me. It is one who has given, and so I, in return, must give to them. An exchange, a partner.
And there's a little tight nod from Willow, and just this little there it is. That is not how we defined friends. At least, not generally amongst humans.
He tilts his head, and the silent gesture is asking, like, what is that? What is friendship? What does friend mean, if not an exchange partner?
She's kind of you can see her trying to figure out how to phrase it. Amy, shut the fuck up.
I'm not saying anything.
I
Paige
see.
is
I
what?
see all of the movement in the Discord.
Listen,
And
Paige was munching on a cookie. She has finally finished chewing the cookie.
and Willow just like you see her kind of searching for how to phrase it. For humans, friends are less formally obligated. In fact, they are not truly obligated for anything. A friend is a person that you like to be around. So you choose to be around them simply for the pleasure of their company.
He he slowly moves his head to the other side. And he's listening intently. You can also see that as he is listening, he buzzes and thrums a little bit, and this catches the attention of Vivette, and she is also like eyes have turned to you, eating a different pastry now, or rather, if a different part of a pastry, and she is also standing on top of the mushroom table, like intently focusing on Teacher Willow.
Oh, did like a tiny mushroom like sprout for her to sit at a tiny table on the table?
She is just standing there.
Aw.
Yeah, she does not have a seat, though she could sit on some of the cake if she wanted to.
Willow just kind of like looks from Whistler, realizes Vivette is also watching her, looks at Vivette, and then just kind of like nods, like, okay. They aren't immediately reacting to this. Like, you might choose to do things with them that you both enjoy, but there is no requirement to do anything. There is no summoning. There is no obligation, like I said. I
Vivette
assume
starts
that
to
you.
vibrate. Sorry, go on.
And she would just kind of like pause for a second, tilt her head. I assume that these trees that you talked to, you simply enjoyed talking to them. Otherwise, you would not have to talk to them.
He nods, kind of realizing what that implicates. And Vivette starts to buzz a little bit. And at first, she's buzzing towards you, Willow, like obviously trying to communicate to you. And then there's a brief moment where she becomes aware and then turns to Whistler and buzzes back to him, and then they have that brief exchange where Whistler is mostly listening, and he turns to you, Willow and Paige, and he is looking back and forth between you as he says, I I believe I am starting to understand, mesdames and sir. Pierre, who just kind of like, uh, do not mind me. And he looks back to you, Willow, and says, the trees I knew, they did not bargain with their words. We merely enjoyed one another's company. I see. And he looks down to Vivette. This one speaks of a little human. Small. She used to run with her. And this human would summon her from the mushroom circle. That is what she remembers. Though it was long ago. And he looks very seriously at you, Willow. Is that a friend?
Did Vivette enjoy running with this human? Was it a task to her, something she may not have truly wanted to do?
He turns to Vivette, and there's a buzz, like a very, very enthusiastic, filled with curiosity, humming buzz. And Vivette, like, in return, enthusiastic humming and buzzing, so much so when she beats her wings, she just lifts about 2 or 3 inches off of the mushroom table and then plops back down onto it. And Whistler looks up to you and nods once to confirm that, yes, she did enjoy her company.
And I would say that is something much closer to what a human would consider a friend, yes.
Nod, nod, nod from Paige.
I am intrigued. I wonder how many friends are there?
As many as you want to have. There's no limit.
So long as you and the person in question are both enjoying each other's company, and it does not feel like a task, then, like Paige said, there is no practical limit to it. There are friends that you might be closer to, that you might spend more time with, might enjoy the company of a little bit more, but there is nothing out there saying you can only have a certain number.
His eyes scan your face, and you feel like some are very, very closely hunched over beside you, like on bated breath, waiting to see what Whistler concludes with all of this information. And he nods once and says, I am in your debt, madame, for you have shown me a powerful thing.
And Willow just kind of smiles, gives a single nod, and that is one final little detail. If you want to be considered a friend, there's really not any care for debt. I have enjoyed this conversation. If you enjoyed it, then that enjoyment is the equaling out, I guess you could say, if you must think of an exchange.
Must I? And he turns back into the table and just stares into the middle distance again and says, must I think of an exchange?
2 days in a row, we're freaking Faye, man.
Here we go, here we go. Let's fucking go, man.
In that moment of thought, he looks at his hand, and his fingers are quite long and pointed at the end, though not necessarily sharp, as you've all been like you've all seen little twigs that are long and pointy, but not necessarily harmful. Um, he bends his hand a little bit, and there's no bone, though it imitates bone structure. He tilts his wrist, and a shoot of wood starts to grow as he were growing an extra digit on the bottom of his wrist, like a sixth pinky. And it grows and grows, and it gets to about 12 or 13 inches long. And Whistler looks at it and then reaches up with his other hand and snaps it off. And he takes this piece of himself and then holds it out in front of him and then snaps it in half. And he takes those two pieces and snaps them again until he has 4 little wood snips of his body. And he holds one hand out to Willow and Vivette and one hand out to Paige and Pierre. I offer you an accord from one Fae to one human. From one Fae, and he looks to Vivette, to another Fae. And then he looks to you, Paige and Pierre, though he says this to all of you. And from one friend to another. You may call upon me, but you are not obligated to.
When he snapped the appendage off, Paige's hand instantly went to her mouth in a gasp of like, "Oh my god!" She's like, "Oh, cool, he's growing another finger? Okay, that's pretty cool. What the fuck?" But she'll take it with a smile.
When you grab it and look at it, looking at it a little closer, you can see that the actual construction of this is like a little wooden whistle.
Oh, Whistler, whistle.
Well, we'll slowly take one of the pieces with a little nod. And you are not obligated to come when we call if it is inconvenient or you do not want to.
His eyes kind of dart back and forth, reading your expression, trying to gauge the truth behind the statement. And after a pause, he nods.
Willow waits for him to agree before she examines the whistle a little closer. It's a rather neat trick you did there.
You didn't get hurt from it, did you?
He looks at you, Paige, and he just shakes his head no. Very matter-of-factly.
Okay, good.
'Tis not painful to grow and to break. What pains is iron, the touch of steel.
So we shall put this in a nice little cloth. Page, Pierre.
Oh, handkerchief. Pulled out with a flourish from her sleeve.
The little whistle, like to you guys, it is about slightly bigger than. Well, it's actually about the diameter of a boba straw and like an inch long. It's very small, but it's just big enough that you can use it as a whistle. But to the Vivette, it is like a trash can.
How's she gonna blow in that?
She holds it up and can see through it, like. But she holds it and then cradles it against her chest, kind of like you hold a pillow.
Aw.
When you grow things like that, do you have any sensation in them at all?
He looks at his hand and just waves, makes a nice wave gesture with his fingers and says, I feel all that I need.
It's just kind of this like arch brow again, and like Willow just kind of curls the whistle in her fist and now just props her like chin on her like hand, because now she gets to play the 20 questions.
Boy.
So I don't mean this to sound rude, but we have categories, I guess you could say, for many of your kind. Many, well, not your kind, but Fae. Like, I believe we would consider Vivette a pixie. In our words, it's a particular term for what you are. Although others like you.
He tilts his head to the other side. I have seen others of my ken. They are as the trees.
She
You
kind
hear Pierre, like, from after that, Pierre just, like, furrows his brow and just goes, that does not clear up anything at all. I don't know what that means.
Okay. She like tugs it. She like scoots her chair, like leans, and like the chair like scooches next to him. Okay. So what we are going to do is you are going to write down what they are saying so that we can figure it out, okay?
He looks at you, and there's a moment where he goes to protest, and then just, no, that is a good plan. I will do that. And he reaches into his pocket and pulls out like a messy notepad that has jokes on one side and trick ideas and magic like notes for how certain magic tricks are supposed to go. Flips through a couple pages, gets to a blank one, and just scribbles down the gist of what Whistler said.
Mm-hmm. Paige is watching him write, knowing full well she can't fucking read any of it. She's like, okay, try to get as many of the words used as possible so that we can, what's the term for it? Reverse, figure it out later. We do it later. Just pay attention.
From the way you talk, that makes it sound like there's very few of your kind.
he he doesn't shrug, but he kind of leans back, and the motion of his shoulders is one of almost indeterminate knowledge. And he says, I do not venture far from the queen and her domain. 'Tis not safe.
Do you not venture far for fear of what's going on in the woods, or because you've been told not to?
He rocks back and forth a bit. One does not venture far, for the queen provides safety. Her domain is well known. and well walked.
So you think there might be more of your kind elsewhere, though, outside of her domain?
He brings his hand up to his chin, and you can see him do that same scratching gesture he did before, where he puts one finger and then you hear the skrrk of wood against wood. And he says, I have a curiosity about my kin. Though I fear the answer may be hard to find.
Oh, hey, idea.
He turns to you, Paige.
Okay, so we are going to be traveling, yes? So what if we can keep an eye out for other whistlers? Or people like you? And we can let you know if we find them.
Goes still for a moment and settles in, gets a little bit serious, and says, were I to ask this of you, the Queen may have objections.
But you're not asking. I am.
He narrows his eyes.
This might be one of the finer points of being friends.
He looks to you both and says, wherefore am I a friend to thee?
What?
What, he's like basically
Wait,
asking
wait, hold
why.
on. Wait, what exactly did you
He said, so I'm not sure if I'm using that word correctly, but wherefore
Uh-huh.
essentially means why. He's
Yeah.
asking
I want to know the quote so I
why,
can put it in my note.
wherefore am I a friend to thee?
Okay.
This might be urgent.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
I'll be right back.
I did not anticipate you guys winning over Whistler. I thought it was going to be more of grill him with 20 questions and annoy him.
Oh, that's still in the cards. We just may not actually RP that out because we got around to the friendship thing first.
I will say as I, the falling action here as the night grows long, we can get to a good stopping point, and then we'll say you have 20 questions time where Willow can ask whatever bizarre questions she wants, and if you want the answers to them, you can message them to me. I will give you time to ruminate on them, and then
Good,
you
Amy.
guys can all go back to bed.
I'm sorry, just give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Good.
You good?
Fucking problem.
Are you good to keep going for a bit?
Oh yeah, everything's fine. It's just
Okay.
washer machine wasn't working right. Therefore, must ask me what to do.
uh, the wifey powers must be activated.
Yep.
True.
Okay.
So wherefore am I a friend to thee?
Wherefore am I a friend to thee? Paige looks fucking confused. She just tilts her head. She's like, where is
He's
here?
asking why.
Pierre looks at you, Paige, and you can see that he didn't write down a single fucking word from what that sentence was.
What? Pierre, you have one jobs too. Which, why?
Yeah, Willow just kind of like reaches a hand kind of across the table with like the very like slow, quiet gesture of putting a hand down of like trying to get attention. She's like, he's asking why we call him a friend. She looks back at him, and there's just this like one shoulder shrug. Well, I have at least enjoyed talking to you. You have done nothing to harm me or make me feel unsafe or out of place. I would hope that we have not done any such thing to you.
It's, there is understanding in his look, and he nods once. Be that I am thy friend, were your group to run upon my kin. He looks at the whistle held by Vivette, and then looks up at you both and says, it would be welcome to be called upon.
And
Okay.
Willow nods. Should that such an instance like that happen, we will try our best to make sure that you're aware.
He nods once. I give you my thanks for a task yet undone.
Uh, of course. Is that is what friends do. And we're going to keep an eye out, and we're going to make sure that we look for whiskers.
He nods once, very, seemingly very happy, though he does not animate very much. You can tell by his very minimalist gesturing. His shoulders are a little bit higher, and he seems to be in good spirits.
I feel like this is a good place to pause it if you're looking to end
Yeah.
soon.
I was thinking it's pretty late. Is there any other thing you wanted to hit Whistler up with before
I know
we
some of the
kind of close
questions that
out?
she's going to ask, but that's not going to make for an interesting scene. It's the
It's just 20
scientific,
questions.
yeah, it's the
Scientific.
scientific brain like activating.
Okay, I imagine that at this point, the table kind of splits. Willow starts asking Whistler very like specific scientific questions, and Paige brings out all the fucking little like table magic tricks she can show to Vivette, like the fucking like hide a coin shit.
Just slowly there grows this crowd of pixies around. on Paige and Kier.
There are several additional pixies who come to watch, all of them with different types of bug-like features. But the night winds down, and I will say that you, Z, can come up with your questions, and I will answer them as Whistler to the best of his ability, while still being his weird cryptic self, because there's a minimum threshold of cryptic that a fae must be.
Well, see, that's the beauty of she will figure that out, and she will figure out how to ask the very specific questions that a fae cannot easily dance their way around and be cryptic. That's where he gets annoyed by her.
Yay! We made another Fae friend. Let's go. We've explained the concept of friendship again.
Feel like this one, even though this one is more cryptid than Wisteria, it went better.
Right?
There's one last thing I will well, no, I'm just gonna save it. Because there will probably be RP that happens whenever everyone convenes back at the room. But I will say that for the closing action here, you all reconvene at the area where you'll be staying, finding, I assume, in a mostly pleasant surprise that Angharad has a bed in that room now.
Electra's just sitting in the room waiting for somebody to show back up, and all of a sudden a bed just pops up out of nowhere.
Bed just fucking materializes. What the fuck does that mean?
In that same vein, much in the way that all magic seems to work here, it is like a very, very subtle. You notice out of the corner of your eye that suddenly there's a bed that wasn't there the other day, or the other second, the other moment.